Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it is time for a review of the new HMLTD record, West of Eden. This is the debut full-length album of London band HMLTD, formerly Happy Meal Limited, West of Eden. One of my most long-anticipated debut records. I have been waiting for this thing since the band dropped their To the Door single back in 2017. Since then, the band has maintained their small but growing fan base with more singles, an EP, much of which was good, but I've been dying to hear the full scope of their ideas and talents on a full-length record, because they have a pretty unique approach to post and art punk. And sure, while there is a lot about the band's style that borrows from the UK's rich history with those genres, as well as new wave and goth rock, their radical lyrical reflections on the modern day, combined with their willingness to incorporate elements of trap and contemporary pop, industrial music too, makes them an act that could potentially bring the sounds of the pop group and Public Image Limited and The Cure to a new audience, a new generation. And even though West of Eden is a weird and sometimes challenging record that might put some listeners in an ideologically uncomfortable spot, I still hear hits. This thing is 15 tracks, 49 minutes. I think the band was smart to work in some of their breakout singles I mentioned earlier, like the song To the Door, which is a thrilling cross between manic driving post-punk and spaghetti western guitars, a galloping rhythm too, and these sudden dark transitions into super nocturnal trap beats. The combination of styles here is so absurd that it just works, and the dramatics of this track are extended by the intro, the Ballad of Calamity James, which sort of sounds like a more tortured take on the theme music to a John Wayne movie. There's also the single Satan, Luella, and I, which does have a very long-winded intro, but it is well worth the twisted piano pop that follows immediately after. It's jaunty, it's catchy, it's freakish. The horns, the group vocals, the harmonious chorus, it's equal parts extravagant and edgy. And even though these two tracks are older, I didn't anticipate just how well they would blend into the rest of the material here, or how consistently daring the rest of the record would be. Like the opening track with this super tight pair of drums and bass, quivering spoken word that is provocatively celebrating the death of the West, a cultural farce that's constantly propped up by conservatives to establish their ideology as traditional, normal. Meanwhile, this track satirizes that with images of football fans with their head in their hands, CEOs hanging by their neckties. It's twisted, to say the least. We also have the equally dark but even catchier Loaded following that. This is one of the heaviest songs the band has ever put out, with these alternating synth bass notes, pounding beats, rigid bits of guitar and piano. Sounds like something out of a 2000s era goth club but turned up to 11, also paired with wonderfully blasphemous chorus. I sold my soul to the devil tonight. Then we have the song Mikey's Song, which is a big change of pace, pure synth pop bliss. No wonder the band got Soft Cell to remix a track from their last EP. And I will say, performance-wise, even though this is one of the milder tracks here, it does have a great hook. Hey Mikey, I heard your song, I heard it! And the storytelling is really what ends up selling this track, as on Facebook, the band describes it as one of their most earnest songs or their most earnest song ever. And I tend to believe that, as it seems like a heartfelt story of being inspired by the music of another artist, getting kind of obsessed and falling in love with that artist, Googling pictures of them, becoming just infatuated. So while it is a somewhat loving story, it's also a bit of a commentary on celebrity, fame, idolizing people. Even deeper into the record, we have 149, which features some nicely contrasting sections of booming dance beats, as well as whispery, breathy vocal harmonies. Kind of an interesting and unlikely mix of sounds, although it is not one of the better songs here. The band picks up the songwriting quality once more, though, with the sister tracks Joanna and Where's Joanna, where they're suddenly moving into some Eastern Bloc, punk cabaret type stuff, a la Dresden Dolls, or Go-Go Bordello, or think, I don't know, MCR on the song Mama. Gotta say, for as campy as HMLTD can be, I wasn't anticipating a move into this direction, especially on the second of two tracks, which is even more theatrical than the first, with these super demented tick, 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 tick rhythm guitars and very over-the-top singing. But really what ends up making these two tracks is the concept, the story, which seems to center around gender dysphoria. And the narrator of the song depicts this need, this drive to gravitate to this gender they weren't assigned at birth as like a push and pull between two separate personalities. This alternate identity Joanna, the narrator, wishes could just go away. And then on Where's Joanna, the disappearance of that identity, of that persona, is depicted almost as if it's like a murder. Yes, they're both very riveting and enjoyable tracks, but this is easily one of the most unique angles I've heard a musician take to this topic. We then have the very sinister and explosive Death Drive, which has a very unique combination of influences: the freakish vocals of Pere Ubu, the bloody storytelling of Suicide, as well as the subversive Elvisisms of the Cramps, but it's all presented with the heaviness of like a Marilyn Manson song. And the track Nobody Stays in Love, I think, is the closest the band is coming on this record to a real, legitimate pop crossover. The understated, alluring vocals, the groovy beats, the smooth, grand build-up into a massive, soaring, super melodic chorus. In a lot of respects, it sounds like a perfectly engineered piece of radio pop. I honestly could imagine Ariana Grande singing this hook. Nobody stays in love. Yeah, maybe it has a message that the average pop listener wouldn't necessarily gravitate to, but considering how much of mainstream pop is addressing elements of loneliness and depression, etc., etc., why not? It could happen. Nothing's everlasting, woo-hoo. More social commentary on the record comes through on the track Blank Slate, where the band essentially is telling us the world is ours, it is what we make it. Humans are more nurture than they are nature. The idea of the West falling through from the first track returns as well, and honestly, it's one of the more compelling sentiments I've heard communicated in a song over the past year. The chorus feels like a really grand finale too. The world is a blank slate, the world is a blank slate. It's so good. I wish it was the closer. That would truly make it one of the best endings I've heard on a record in a very, very, very long time. But instead, we get the track War is Looming as the ending of this record, which is a somewhat twangy, country-influenced, atmospheric ballad. While I'm sure thematically it also reinforces a lot of what was going on the record earlier, musically, sonically, it feels like a very underwhelming epilogue. Gotta say, this debut is everything that I hoped for and maybe just a little bit more. It was loud, it was bold, it was thoughtful, it was exciting, it was catchy, it was passionate, it was dark, it was sexy. The band isn't just reviving genres of music from this post-punk era they're so obviously inspired by, they're refurbishing them. They are recontextualizing and refreshing them. Also, just great performances, great production too. There are a few tracks that I thought were duds. The flow I thought could be improved a little bit more and maybe more thematic focus. But still, I mean, great debut. Great, great, great debut. Feeling a strong 8 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? Make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Over here next to my head is a video that you can check out, and we will see you in the next one. Cool? Cool. Anthony Fantano, HMLTD, West of Eden, forever.